We professional.
Right, professionals.
Professional.
But how does Beyonce say that in the 6 Inch Heels? Oh, you're professional.
Oh, she's a professional.
Right, the way she sounds like, that's fire.
Hey, community, here's what's brewing today.
Your Aunteas got the opportunity to catch up again with Marvin from Melanated Social Work Podcast.
So get your cups ready for Minoritea Report.
Giving everyone a few moments to hop on in, waiting for Dewan. And let's see here. I see Marvin's in the room now. Let me, let's see here. See if I go. Let's see. Dewan's in here.
Hello.
Hey. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm amazing, man. I'm amazing. You know, a little tired. Not gonna lie.
Hey.
Hanging in
Hello,
there.
hello.
What's up, Dewan?
What's up?
Oh, you got that fresh light tonight. Is that a new light on you tonight?
He like glowing and shit. Like, what kind of moisturizer you
Right?
use?
Girl.
My Dove soap.
He said the finest juices and berries. Oh, let's see. We're having folks hop on in. Hey, everyone that's joining in. What's up?
How I make it in here before all the aunties, though? That's what I want to know.
You know? It happens.
They loving that light. Yeah.
Got that glow going.
Come on.
Well, that's cool. Everybody hopping on in. But again, if you're just hopping on in and haven't seen any of the teasers or anything like that, this whole month we've been having favorite folks hop on in with us.
Oh.
Hold on. Can you see? Did I freeze up?
We couldn't hear you for a minute.
Let's see here. And I think my computer is trying to connect. Hold on. There we go. My computer's trying to connect to my AirPods.
Andy, my sister just gave me a little shout out. Hey, I see you in the comments.
I know that's right. What's up, boo?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're this whole month been doing, some lives. Just A, because you guys have kind of requested it, but B, it's Black History Month, and just having some of our favorite guests and friends of the show come on in and just kind of really talk about that intersectionality of being Black first, because it's Black History Month. We're proud of that, but then also just the intersectionality of being part of the LGBTQIA plus community, and the letter mafia, as they say. So tonight we have Marvin from Melanated Social Work. They got the podcast, they got the website. They just doing big shit out here, yo. But we're glad to have you tonight. Hey, what's up, Dom?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
But yeah, absolutely. Thank you for hopping on with us. And before we kind of get started, tell them who you are. Tell them more about the podcast. Tell them about Melanated Social Work and all the good shit that you're a part of.
Yeah. So good evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Marvin Tolliver. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm using he and they pronouns today. I am originally from Oakland, California, so shout out to the Bay, the town.
Hey.
Currently in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania right now. So I'm a therapist with the Radical Therapy Center, so we prioritize folks with marginalized identities, so people of color, queer folks, immigrants, anyone with a marginalized identity. We say that we created that space for folks like us. I'm also co-founder of Melanated Social Work, so we are 4 Black and brown therapists, really trying to fuck shit up in mental health for real.
I know that's right.
Mental health is a white woman dominated field, and so not many folks that look like us. And so we're trying to go in there, start some trouble, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, we starting that shit. And really making it so that mental health and this field is caters more to Black folks, to Black and brown folks. We're fighting for Black liberation. We're changing how therapy is done, how therapy is viewed, to make it more you know, so that people that look like us can be therapists and also to be clients, because there is still that stigma. I'm a radical educator, consultant, guest lecturer, training facilitator, mentor.
Him at
For folks that
15
don't
jobs.
know, for folks that don't know, I will be doing a TEDx talk in Wilmington, Delaware on April 30th.
Right.
So I'm very excited about that. And then I officially have an agent for a book. So I'm going to be writing a fucking book. It's wild.
Congratulations.
Love that.
Don't
Congrats.
say I ain't finished that shit yet. Don't say congratulations yet.
Oh, you gonna finish it though. We're gonna make sure you finish it.
You gotta
Please
get
do.
people their flowers while you still can.
Say it again.
I said you got to give people their flowers while you still can.
Oh yeah, do it today because I'm gonna finish that shit. So do it. I'll take all of it today. Yeah.
Is that something you've always wanted to do though? Like to write a book?
It's been something that harder than a Jamaican. Oh shit, Black Gay Weddings. I follow y'all. I've always liked to write. So I've always liked to write like poems. I write songs. And so a book has never been something that I was excited for. It's funny, I actually do not like reading at all. I just got into audiobooks, but I've always loved writing. This book is going to be a whole community book. It's going to be very, very personal, very, very vulnerable. So I'm just excited. I'm excited for the opportunity. Yeah.
That's amazing, man. No, that's incredible. Like, and I know just a sheer amount of work that's about to be ahead of you. So we are sending all kinds of positivity vibes.
Give it.
Your
I
way,
need it.
man.
Give it. I need it.
So you already kind of hinted like a little bit how you identify and things like that, but why is Black History Month important to you, especially first as a Black man, and then also in that intersection of being Black and part of the letter mafia, as they say?
Yeah. So I do identify as queer. I'm bisexual for folks that don't know. Using he and they pronouns again today. So Black History Month is important to me because America does a very good job of erasing us. America does a very good job of erasing us and then retelling that story as America as the hero or as the protagonist. Right? We see that constantly. We see them erasing our history. We see them debating things like critical race theory. We see them banning books by African-American authors, right? Why do you ban books in a country that's supposed to be the land of the free? Right? They're trying to hide the truth. They're trying to remain the protagonist. They're trying to remain the hero and the good guy. And not all this truth is coming out. And white supremacy is in danger. And I love it.
Hey, yeah, I know that's right.
In addition, the Black America does a good job of erasing queer folks. And let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
When we tie in things like religion, there's shame, there's guilt, there's silence. There is ignoring. There is a lot of shame and guilt, and you're going to hell and you're wrong. Right? There's a lot of just like pray it away. A lot of these in the Black community, even if it's not tied to religion, it could be tied to masculinity and toxic masculinity as well, right? The number of times I heard the F word, I think people aren't saying it anymore, but the F word, that the derogatory term for queer person. The number of times I've heard that growing up, the number of times I've heard that in hip hop, like
right.
It tells us that we don't belong. And so Black History Month for me is like, nah, I'm here. We're here.
Yeah.
Black, queer, we're fucking here. And we will be respected and we will not be silenced or erased.
Is that something that you've always felt, or is that something you've kind of grown into, like just like the boldness of your Black and queerness?
Yeah, this is something that is very new.
Yeah.
My Blackness has been strong, right? Because that's the one that everyone loves, right? Everyone loves is a strong Black man in a lot of spaces. Everybody don't love a strong Black queer man, right? When you throw queer in there, things tend to change, right?
You're right.
Things tend to be like, ooh, but queer? Ooh, yikes. Actually, I'm gonna go, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 years ago that I actually, you know, came out or you know, allowed folks in. And so it's still a fairly new process for me. You know, dating folks of the same gender and all that stuff. But no, I think it really has come through acceptance, right? My community has accepted me, and that was always my fear, was that my mom, my dad, my sister would all reject me. And so, like, if those three reject me, and those are like my three main most important people ever, ahead of anyone. And so, if those three folks rejected me, I don't know if I would be as confident. I don't know if I'd be the same person that you see right now today. And so, with my mom, my dad, my sister behind me, with my community, my village, like my people, you know, with them just like supporting me, can't nobody tell me shit. Can't nobody tell me.
Period. Period. I know that.
You're of anyone else's opinion means nothing to me, and that's that.
You know, that's huge, because like I feel like that's a similar story for a lot of folks within the queer community, is that rejection of specifically almost like it's one thing like say like if like you have a father figure in your life and things like that rejection, but there's something about like the mama rejection that hits different. And I feel like, especially in the Black community, that's always, at least a lot of the stories that I've heard, that's a huge fear of letting that particular person down. And then if you come out, or when you come out and it's fine, then like you said, there ain't shit you can tell me now because my mama on my side. Come on now.
My mama said I'm fine, so fuck you.
Period. Period.
But
that is so real. I don't know
if you all experience this, or anybody who's watching, but like just the level of weight that's lifted from keeping that inside. It's just like, oh shit! Like, this is hella real. I don't know if anyone else experiences this. This is the first time I'm talking about this. I used to have dreams where I was running away from something. Talk about fucking symbolism, right? This is how my brain works. I was having dreams where I was running away from something, a monster, something scary. After that moment, when I started to embrace my identity more, no dreams.
That's interesting.
And it's just why. As a therapist, there's so many things you can say about it.
I mean, break it down for us. Break it down.
I'm not running from anything anymore. I'm not running from I was running from myself, right? And I'm, wasn't running anymore. And so the dream stopped, and I'm just like, everything is okay. Like, I'm queer, people know it, and the world is not in.
Yeah. If you're willing to share, I'd be curious for you to, just kind of talk about how you reconcile, the challenges between the expectations of being a Black man in a Black community, and then being a gay man in a queer community, and those two converging in your life. Because you mentioned earlier this notion of, toxic masculinity, the prevalence of religion, and how that plays a role, particularly in the Black community. And, that's a lot that so many of us, have to grapple with and try to reconcile. I'm just curious about what that process was like for you.
Yeah. I can't sit here and say that I'm 100% comfortable in both of those identities. There's still some people pleasing from the me not wanting to come off as the angry Black man. That still happens. There's still some internalized homophobia that shows up. And I was just talking to my melanated social work brother Jesse. I don't know if he's still in here, but what's good?
What's up, Jesse?
But my different things that I post on my Instagram, right? Like, I post a lot about Blackness. I do not post so much about queerness. And part of that is because I'm thinking, okay, you can see analytics. I have about 80-something% followers that are women. And I have, I see you, Jesse. And I have about, 10 to 15% that are men. And I'm just like, shit, like, the men are the ones that I really want to speak to, because, they're the ones that need this, that need the words, right? But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but if I post something that's too queer, is it going to turn them off? Like, is it going to mean that they're not going to, that they're going to unfollow me? And so there's still this like anxiety or this fear around what will cisgender heterosexual Black men say. Do I have their approval? That I just need to like get rid of. You know. So I'm getting there. However, you know, I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. For damn sure, I'll get there.
That's a real statement, though, because I find now that, especially since we've had the podcast, I say the podcast has been like that last final frontier for me personally, because it's just like for the longest I was growing up in like a predominantly white area, like going to school in predominantly white school, but then like being a pastor's kid and being in like a Black church. It was always that kind of mix of identity and not knowing and da-da-da-da. And finally coming to be cool with my Blackness. But then, oh, shit, Carell got to deal with being gay. Hold on. and like you said, it's almost like this conflict of your Blackness in a way. So it's just like, here you go, finally being cool with yourself being Black. But now I got to deal with myself of being gay. And then it just lifts up all this other shit that you're like, fuck, I thought I was cool over here. And it takes a while. It's too much to unpack. But it's just like I find finally with the podcast, because there's no running away with this. We like, hey, I want the podcast to be successful. We want the podcast to be successful. So I'm gonna be posting shit left and right. And it's made everyone else had to deal with it like in a public way almost in a regard, because they're like, at the end of the day, they're like, we want to see Carell, we want to see the guy successful. Despite what I might think about Carell being gay, and Carell being the pastor's kid and being gay and all this stuff, at the end of the day, I have found that people are like, at the end of the day, we care about you, Carell, and we've got to deal with our stuff. And I've also found that I probably didn't give some people the benefit of the doubt to actually be able to be capable of still loving me for me wholly. And so it's just like, as much as the weight I put on myself of thinking, oh, I'm not going to be Black enough now, and I'm not going to be this enough. Some of it did come to fruition, surprisingly. And some of it did come to fruition. I don't want to say that, but it was some people that I thought were going to be the most toxic Black masculine men ended up being like, hey, like, how's Corey doing? Like, how, you know, and checking in on me. That, like, that part of it shook me and shocked me, that I had to almost like unpack that portion of just like, man, as much as I thought they were going to stereotype me, I've been stereotyping them right back.
Yeah. There's definitely some projection that happens, and it's based in fear, and it's hella valid, right? Because you see on TV, you hear the stories, you hear all of these, you know, anecdotes about people being rejected by their families, and I don't know about for some of y'all, but for me, that would. I don't know if I'd be able to come back from that.
I know I wouldn't.
I don't. And so, you know, exactly. There's this. It's a valid anxiety. It's a valid fear. But then sometimes you have to tease out. Well, is it fear, or am I projecting what I'm expecting, and not really seeing these individuals as humans, and not really seeing them as accepting individuals.
Absolutely.
This moment of not having, especially within our community, not having positive examples to follow. Because for, you know, many Black men particularly, you know, not even having a father figure in their household and trying to figure out what being a man is supposed to be about, and your only influences are, you know, basically what you see, but not what you experience directly, right? So you see, you know, your, you know, older friends and or people with their parents, or you see images on TV and in media, and you see you know, people in like music videos and movies and all of these kinds of influences, and a lot of us are putting together what being a man is supposed to be like, and then let alone this other layer of being a Black gay man. It's just a whole other thing. And so, you know, like for example, I've been out and living proud for more than 20 years of my life. I came out in my early.
You don't look it though, boo.
I say, would you come out at like 13? How that happen?
Wow. You know that Black don't crack. There ain't no Botox over here.
Hey.
But and don't let my 23andMe, for you who are around for that conversation, and let it fool you. But that's a conversation conversation for another day. But the point of it is, the point of it is that a lot of us don't have. So the reason I brought that up is because, you know, when I came out and talking about what you were saying earlier, you know, like at the risk of losing your family, you know, my choice for self-preservation was independence. So I felt like I couldn't come out to my family until I was self-sufficient, and I was comfortable with, if they choose to disown, disallow, whatever, you know, that I would be okay.
Yeah.
And you know, because I didn't want to get kicked out of my, you know, kicked out of my house. I didn't want to but I, you know, and I didn't have examples of queer Black men, you know, gay, queer, whatever you want to call it, to look up to. So there was no model to follow. There were no images of, you know, positive images of Black gay men on TV. There were no, you know, openly gay men in my neighborhood growing up in little old Maple Heights, Ohio. You know, like, so what I knew about being gay was you were going to be effeminate and you might cross-dress every once in a while.
Dude, love me a wig though. Hey, honey.
But now, today, I think, you know, with your platform, with our platform, you know, there's opportunity for, I just think about the privilege that we have, you know, to have a platform that we can showcase what friendship looks like, what camaraderie looks like, what support looks like, the ability to communicate effectively, and even communicate through disagreement, but do it in such a way that it doesn't erode the relationship. And so, you know, when young people or others who haven't experienced that are able to see that, it provides a little bit of a model that they can follow. And it also helps them to see a reflection of themselves. You know, that representation is really important for self-discovery and self-acceptance.
Something that you said really reminded me about, like, not having models or people who identified as queer. I didn't. So again, I'm from the San Francisco, from Oakland. So San Francisco's 25 minutes across the bridge. And so, you know, I was at Pride, and one of the things, this was a while back, but one of the things that I actually didn't like about Pride was that it was super sexualized. And like, I knew it was like liberation and freedom and everything like that, but I was just like, well, why does it have to be like, why your ass cheeks out? like that doesn't I love it, I feel it, I support you having cheeks out, like, do what you want, but
and take a couple of pictures.
that doesn't represent me as kind of a more, like, I fucking love sports, I love football, I love like hip hop, I love all that traditionally masculine shit, but also like fucking love Beyonce. I love some damn figure skating to watch. Like I love all that traditionally, you know, more quote unquote feminine things too. And so like, where are the queer folks that look like me? And I think that was one of the things I was just like, I don't belong really there, but also I'm definitely not straight. So you know, where do I belong? And then there was something else you said. Oh, around relations. So around like, how do we show up as queer folks? I think another thing is like, in relationships, we're modeling what we've learned from heterosexual relationships.
Absolutely.
And so like, we're trying, but like, no.
And that shit don't line up.
No.
That shit does not line up.
And it doesn't line up in their community either.
It does.
Like, so we all lying to ourselves.
And so, you know, it's really about taking ownership over ourselves, really understanding who we are, and reimagining what like shit could look like, what liberation could look like for queer folks, for Black folks, and for Black queer folks.
You know, we've been talking a little bit about you know, representation and having models to follow, and obviously in Black History Month, this is an opportunity to, you know, give flowers to and pay homage to people who've been trailblazers. And I'm just curious, you know, as you think about, you know, being the intersection of Blackness and queerness for you, who is a trailblazer that you really admire, who, you know, is just probably one of many individuals who have paved the way for, you know, Black queer individuals?
Yeah, so I have two answers if that's okay, because I had one and then I just thought of one as you were talking, but I hadn't really thought about it until just now. But RuPaul, RuPaul gets a lot of shit and like does fuck around with white people a lot, but RuPaul was really the earliest queer person that I had seen, and just like was just living that shit. Was like, yeah, I'm RuPaul and what. And now that I'm thinking about that, like that was probably the first, and I like can respect the hell out of that. The answer that I was thinking about was that somebody mentioned James Baldwin, and for someone, and I actually just started Giovanni's Room, an audiobook because I can't do paper books, but
I hear you on that.
but the writing is so beautiful. And like the things that he was going through, and I think that book was published in the 50s. He was going through in the 50s that like people would not dare talk about.
Right.
And you know, to be so open, to be so proud during that time, like people struggle today in 2022 as a queer Black man in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Like he gets
it's a whole nother level.
He gets all the flowers. He gets it all.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't even imagine, because like just as much as we still like you can walk into any room and they still see a Black man and all that they try to put on us still to this day. I can't imagine that 60 years ago. Like like that is just so wild. And then we also know within the Black community how much we still have a lot to deal with about being the gay part and the queer part. Then, and the sad part too is like a lot of times they probably didn't have the mental time and capacity, because you're literally just trying to survive as a Black person, like in the country. So the gay level is like, hey, Playboy, I ain't got enough time today to figure this shit out, you know? And for him to be so free and open and writing it and documenting it, is huge. It's so huge.
Yeah. And it's Giovanni's Room. I saw somebody put in the chat, but it's Giovanni's Room, or Ask in the chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Read the book.
and I pinned this real quick too, just because Venetia Valentine said there's a fine line drawn when it comes to Black males sharing spaces between gays and straights. Religion has created a huge obstacle within our community. And one thing that I enjoy about you all's just like podcast and your crew is, okay, here's a Black man, here's a group of 4 like people of color, of men, where it's like straight, queer, all the above. And that's like not even like the first thing like on the menu, you know. It's like that just happens to just be there, and I enjoy that so thoroughly, because I agree with you. Like you, I enjoy sports. I enjoy hip hop. I like the Super Bowl. Hey, it was like a gay and Black man's fantasy, because I was getting my life with Mary, and then like Dre and Snoop. I was like, oh man. But like, it's cool with you all, like just your network and your melanated social work. It's for men that are just happen to be friends and wanted to succeed and wanting to share their thoughts about social work, you know, and that's so dope to me, because that's another thing you just don't see a lot of, is that camaraderie between queer and straight a lot of times within people of color, like communities of people of color.
Yeah. And when I did, so I wasn't always, obviously the podcast has been out for, I want to say 2 years now. And that was right around the time that I was still coming, you know, into my identity. And so when I did, you know, disclose on the podcast, like, I think it was Josh, he was like, oh, we can stop and say, oh, we have this announcement. I was like, no, this is not an announcement. It's just, I'm going to say that I'm bisexual and I like mess with dudes sometimes. and that's literally going to be it. And then we're going to continue on with the conversation, because it's not a huge thing, in my opinion. It's not this thing we have to make announcements for. Like, nah, this is who I am. Continue with our conversation, you know? And when it becomes that easy, I think that's when we know that as a culture that we've shifted.
Yeah. Is there something that, as you are like coming more into yourself, finding that you love a particular part of the intersectionality of being Black and queer, or something that you're like, oh man, I didn't know I could represent this, or I didn't know I could feel like this, or anything that just as time has kind of gone on now, you're like, I'm liking this.
Yeah. So one thing that it makes me very good at is being a therapist, because for the cis het man, I can be like, yeah, sometimes women be doing some shit. And then for the queer man, I'm like, yeah, sometimes niggas be doing some shit. So and so I think that makes me a much more well-rounded and versatile therapist. And, and I think the other thing is that, you know, I'm now proud of something that used to bring me so much shame. And there's something just in that personal journey that's so powerful for me, because it was to the point where I would literally sweat. I would I'd have legitimate anxiety whenever anyone asked me, or even if the topic came up and I had to participate.
Yeah.
And so I was deathly afraid of being, you know, found out. And now it's just this thing that's just like, oh no, I'm gonna be loud and proud about it. And I still have, you know, nearly 20,000 followers. And it's gonna
talk that shit.
And, and I'm doing a fucking TEDx talk, and I'm writing a fucking book, all with my queer ass, black ass body. And so, you know, it's pride for me. I also know for sure that there are so many other men, black and brown men, that are going through the same thing. And anytime I do post something that's, for me, pretty vulnerable, I'm always going to have at least a couple of people in my DMs like, hey, thank you for sharing this. I went through this thing too. Thank you for doing what you do. Yeah. And that too is just like, oh shit, like, okay, so I can't stop this. Like I'm making a difference in people's lives. And they, you know, they are where I was, and I want everyone to be liberated. Fully liberated. Black queer liberation.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And that's true. It is a cool feeling. And as much as we're all still working on ourselves, by the way, we don't have all the answers. And we're trying to figure it out day by day, just like everyone else. But we might just be like a little farther along on the track, you know? And that's it. And it, like you said, it is cool to have people reach out to you and be vulnerable. And especially with a podcast where you might not know who these people really are. You see them on social and things like that. But for them to be that vulnerable, be like, hey, I have this question, or hey, I'm going through this and I see you and thank you for that is dope. That's dope. You know, and like you said, like it's like shit. I guess we gotta keep going because it's how
we doing.
Yeah. Oh man, let's see here. I know I'm trying to keep up with all these comments too. Someone said something cool or asked something. Benicia also said, "Am I the only one who feels that the gay community hijacks the boundary between gay culture and self-expression?" Ooh, that's like a whole episode. Let me screenshot that. That might have to be a topic on the podcast.
Hijacks gay culture. Ooh, that's layered. That's layered.
I don't know. I think what happens, honestly, everybody wants to be that free and that expressive, and we find the straight, and particularly white straight men, kind of have hijacked everybody, thinking you can only act one certain way. And so once you kind of come into your queerness and things like that, and you realize, hold on, I don't have to act that way, and that's not what I feel should best represent myself. And I think the gay community was just hey, self-expression, let's take it, because I truly think everyone wants to. And it doesn't have to be hyper-sexualized. It doesn't have to be whatever. It can be whatever it is for you that works for you. But I think that's the one good thing of coming out, is just finally I could dress or talk or listen to or watch whatever I want to, because I simply enjoy it. And it's not hurting anybody else out there, you know? So
I think that's the most evolved. I think that's the most evolved state of being, is when you can really cut out a lot of the noise and say to yourself, I'm just going to be me and do the things that make me happy. Not necessarily things that make oneself happy at the expense of other people, but things that genuinely make you happy and bring you joy in life.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we run away from those kinds of things, regardless of what they are, call it feminine, masculine, whatever, the more that we run away from that, the more that we're setting ourselves up to live a very internalized, sheltered, and depressing kind of life. And I think a lot of us have found a real kind of freedom when we lean more into those things that bring us joy and recognize that these social constructs that are out there, that tells us what being a man is, what being a gay person is, what what your life is supposed to, like, all these things about what's supposed to is bullshit. It's bullshit, because what the real thing is that you're supposed to do is experience life and do it in an authentic way. And the more that we pull away from our authenticity, the more that we are not living that life.
Yeah, and all these supposed tos are typically rooted in white supremacy.
Period.
Exactly.
Typically rooted in whiteness. I could do a whole spiel about that, but I'm gonna say
not in Black History Month. We talk about we can talk about that in March. How about that? We can talk about let's talk about what makes us wonderful, beautiful, and all that. But we can talk about white people in 2 weeks.
They get the other 11
never.
months.
Right.
I don't never again.
Do you feel it hurts the acceptance factor of the gay community, of the self-expression and being that open? It could, but that's what you find after a point. It's not my burden. I was burdened for so long trying to deal with how Black I was, or how lack thereof I was, and how gay I was, and how lack thereof. I ain't got time to worry about them no more. Like, I really genuinely don't. And it doesn't mean that I don't, because there's definitely days and moments where you still kind of get caught back up in that. But shit, no, especially not Black History Month. I'm gonna be blackity black and gay as hell. Oh man. But
I think it's all about leaning into. No, I was just gonna say, I think it's just about leaning into your authentic self. This is what I tell my clients all the time. I want you to be your authentic self. Fuck these systems, fuck what you're supposed to be, forget these boxes that we're all supposed to be in. There are billions of people on this planet. For all of us to fit into one box is not real. It's just not realistic. It's not real. Right? So just be who you want to be. Like you just said, do what brings you joy. And that's that.
Eat the booty like groceries, like you're supposed to be. Come on now.
I love that. I love that line. I love that line from The Color Purple, when they're all sitting at the Thanksgiving table, and Tweet gets up and says, "I'm fixing a sang with Suge Avery." And then he said, "Tweet, what you talking about?" My name not Tweet. I'm Mary Agnes. That moment right there, like when she just like owned who she was and stopped kind of like molding into like. I feel like a lot of us are, have had that kind of moment when we think about like our queerness and our Blackness, or some part of that journey of recognizing who we are, and then hopefully we get to that point where, we can look like Celia until, the misters in our life, everything you done to me, already done to you.
I know that's right. But these are great questions, man. Like, I didn't even get to all of them. We got it. Podcast comes out every Monday. Some of these questions are going to be on the podcast, so check that out wherever you subscribe to podcasts and YouTube. But so we already know of one major black organization that folks should check out, which is yours. You should plug it again real quick. Where are you from?
So, if folks want to follow Melanated Social Work, they can. We Black and brown therapists just doing the damn thing. We have a podcast, the Melanated Social Work Podcast, which I didn't talk about, but I'll talk about very briefly. So we've had the pleasure of having incredible guests. We've had Rachel Cargill on the podcast. We've had Melody Thornton, formerly of the Pussycat Dolls. We've had ex-NFL player Reggie Walker, Stick of the legendary hip-hop group Dead Prez, Adrienne Marie Brown, just like Sonia Renee Taylor, just all of these just dope-ass individuals doing this work. So go check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever else you listen to podcasts. So check us out.
Absolutely. And is there like one Black, like LGBTQIA plus business that you want other folks to check out or anything like that?
So not a business, and I wanted to really think about the queer folks in the community that need the most support. and those are trans folks and non-binary folks, right? And so there is an organization called Morris Home here in Philadelphia. They offer a myriad of services, therapy, hormone therapy. They connect with housing, peer support groups, just a lot of different resources for the trans community specifically.
Yeah.
Because again, we're looking at who's being the most harmed. And for the most part, I'm gonna be okay. I'm masculine presenting, I'm cis, like I'm gonna be fine. For a lot of trans women, for a lot of trans men, a lot of non-binary folks, they are not gonna be safe. Simply just for existing, simply just for walking down the street. And so I want to highlight, again, it's called Morris Home. It's here in Philadelphia, supporting trans folks.
Love it. Well, man, Marvin, we could talk to you all day. We say it every time we bring you guys. Any other questions, Dewan? Do you have anything else pressing on your heart?
No, I think one of the things that's just really important to us was using this opportunity in Black History Month to uplift other Black voices and other Black perspectives, and really talk about what we love about being Black and queer. And there's so many other stories about the things that have that we've had to go through, our traumas, our triggers, and all those kinds of things that we really appreciate, Marvin, you just coming on just to share your perspective and just be another positive Black voice in the room, and spreading light and love wherever you go. So really appreciate you hopping on and sharing your perspective with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Y'all, we love y'all. Y'all just bring the energy that we appreciate. And so, yeah, thank you for having me on. Thank you for folks watching this thing. I'm always just like, people want to listen to me talk. All right.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Please follow me if you're not at mtolliver_LCSW. Also follow us at Radical Therapy Center. Also follow us at Melanated Social Work.
Absolutely. And I see, what about those who identify with LGBTQ but choose not to identify as queer? If that's your truth, that's your truth, boo.
Yeah.
Like I can't. That's like I hope that's like the underlying maybe consensus that you kind of get from Black History Month, from our podcast, from all of our work, is that ultimately whatever is authentic to you is for you. Hopefully you're not identifying as that because there's some social construct on you. Like, you might want to unpack that and see, but if that's not the case, if that's, you don't want to identify as what the hell you want to identify as.
And just to piggyback on that notion, we all know that our language is evolving at a rapid
That's true too.
So, like, we didn't have LGBTQIA, the whole alphabet soup.
Element of P.
Right. We didn't have that, 40 years ago, right?
Right.
There's some semblance of it, but like the terminology LGBTQ and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know I just stumbled over my words, but you know what I'm saying. But the point of it is that our language is evolving at a rapid pace, and people are recognizing that as the social construct of what being gay is, or what being lesbian is, or what being queer is, or what's being non-binary, heterosexual, cisgender, all of these things are just social constructs to help us articulate points and spaces of being. And if that terminology doesn't work for you, what I would say is make something up that fits for you, and it'll catch on, because I guarantee there are other people that are feeling the same way. So if queer is a label, you don't want to define yourself as a label, that's cool, or if queer as a terminology doesn't fit and something else or something that you come up with does, go with that. I think the point of it is just to identify, it's for you to recognize how you identify, right? And find a way to be able to articulate it to anybody who, is privileged enough to understand and be able to receive that.
Yeah. Well said. But that's a very good question, though.
Yeah.
Because that, and that might even be, like we always kind of say on the podcast too, like a point of privilege that we kind of overlook at times. That because we've become so comfortable in, like, I identify as a gay Black man, and I use queer as well, like it kind of almost like as an umbrella. But there's times that we kind of forget that maybe someone doesn't want to identify as that, and they're part of the community, and or they might not be as far out on the journey as we are and things like that, and they kind of step back and be like, hold on, I might have felt like that once before, and this is the avenue that I took to kind of come to peace with myself and things like that. So that I like that question. That was a very good question, and continue to send those. And if you want to continue to send more questions, you can send them to aya@minoriteareport.com, because we do a segment every week called Ask the Aunteas. So that's a very good one. And there's a couple more that I screenshotted from earlier in the conversation that we'll definitely bring up on the podcast. And check us out and check out Melanated Social Work. And anything else, Marvin? You good, boo?
No, that's it. I just lean into joy, listen to your body, community. Trust your community. We cannot do any. I don't say we can't do anything alone, but we cannot live this life alone. We need people. Get your people. Lean on your people.
Right.
Let them lean on you.
You're right. And I'll see you soon in Philly. Hey.
Hey.
All right. Well, everyone, enjoy your evening. Wash your hands, wash your legs, wash your ass, and we'll see you next week for the next one for the Black History Month. So take care.
Bye, y'all.
All right, y'all.
Hey, Aunties, hey.